It worked.
ODYV.
And here we go in 3,
Podcast.
2, 1. Welcome to ODYV, your favorite podcast.
What?
Welcome to ODYV, your favorite podcast. Old dreams, young visions. We're just a married couple that's really all about legacy. I'm your host, Benny Fuego, and I got my hyphy wifey for lifey. Her name is Ruthie-san.
Hello, people of the world.
The interwebs.
The interwebs.
Thank you guys for checking us out right here on YouTube at ODYV Digital. I'm tongue twisted today.
Yep.
Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. You also comment on this video. You can also check out this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms. And subscribe and leave a 5-star review.
This video is today sponsored by Grey's Anatomy, which is why I'm wearing this sweater.
Mm-hmm.
Just kidding, but that would be cool.
That would be cool. So
speaking of Grey's Anatomy,
yeah,
not really the same, but I'm studying to be a medical assistant. This week we had 3 clinical days, which is days where we do like hands-on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing
cheers,
blood
by
draws.
Cheers.
Oh,
Coffee.
Cheers. Coffee, yes.
There we go. Cheers.
We've been doing blood draws. And I had a couple of people come in and like to get, it's not really taking blood from them. They're not really like donating blood, but all I have to do is hit a vein, just get a little bit of blood in the tube just to show that I can do it, and then get out. And it's been interesting to like see my fellow classmates do it because I mean, we're medical assistants, so we're going to be looking at a lot of like things like urine and like urine specimens and blood and all these crazy things that people go to the doctor for.
Yeah.
And then like when the teacher was showing us how to do one of the methods, this girl, no lie, was like watching the procedure be done, and she was looking at the teachers the whole time like
she was like grossed out.
Yeah, and I'm like, how can you make that face when you are going to be the one doing this? And then there's other girls too who, one of them is kind of funny. I feel bad though. She, I think, well, she doesn't like needles apparently.
Yeah. But
we have to do these things on each other unless we have volunteers come in.
Right.
Which if anybody follows me on Instagram, you've probably seen me ask for volunteers a couple times. But this girl sits there, and I mean, the thing only takes literally like 30 seconds if you're good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if the person's not good, then they have to go in and look for the vein, and it's a longer procedure. Right. But she sits there, and she's like holding on to like a little teddy bear thingy in her hand, and like not looking, and she's like, and then she's like, is it in? And it's like they're barely cleaning her with the alcohol pad, and then she they put the needle in her, and then she's like, and like holding her breath and like breathing, and I'm like, girl, it looks like you're getting an epidural or something. It's like this tiny needle. But it's just been funny kind of like looking at the different reactions that people have had, and I'm just like, other girls are like super scared, and it's like, I feel like this is very good practice for us, because if you're freaking out now, you're going to be freaking out 10 times more with an actual patient. And if you're having this kind of reaction right now, that patient is going to be like so scared to get anything done by you. Like, get it together now that we're in class practicing on each other. So it's just been kind of funny. Like, and
I mean, your arm is like all bruised up.
Yeah.
Because somebody did it wrong. Somebody did it wrong. Ooh, look at that. Can you see it? You guys can see it.
Probably. Yeah. So with the needles, you're only supposed to go in once, because if you go out and then you go back in, the needle gets duller and duller every single time, and it hurts more. And I mean, it pinched and it like hurt, but I felt like this was a great learning process for her. And I thought the teacher would say something, and she didn't. But anyways, so I think that was kind of part of it. But I also bruise kind of easily when I get like blood drawn and stuff. So it's just part of the learning experience, I guess.
Right. I feel like if you're not good with needles, like doing anything in the medical field would be something you would not want to do.
Yeah.
Or get involved in.
Yeah. So
it's interesting that people, even though they're like not okay with something, they still go in and they still do stuff like that.
Like they get so grossed out. I'm like, then why are you even trying to get into this field?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me, but whatever.
That's funny.
Teach their own, I guess.
Well, we're like in the middle of our adulting series. We did episode 1 last week. Thank you guys so much for all your support. The listens, the views on YouTube have been great, like a great response. And so if you are watching this episode 2 of this series, make sure you, if you haven't yet, go back and watch part 1, and then you can watch part 2. But thank you guys so much for all your support. So today we're going to address a couple of questions that are pretty deep. I mean, they cover a lot of different areas of life. And again, for anyone who has heard the word adulting, and even though I mean, you hear the word adulting, you kind of figure what it is. But the Urban Dictionary defines adulting as to do grown-up things and hold responsibilities such as 9-to-5 jobs, a mortgage, rent, a car payment, or anything else that makes us think of grown-ups. And like I said last week, this generation, in particular, like the millennial generation and generation, oh my God,
X, Z? No,
I think
Z.
it's Z.
Yeah,
really have a tough time coming to grips that they're becoming adults and growing up and accepting these responsibilities. And partly it's kind of done like half jokingly, you know, like, oh, adulting, you know, and it's like half jokingly, but then there's also this connotation to it, like adulting is something that we should try to resist and avoid. And I feel like what we want to do with this series is basically encourage people like, hey, adulting is a part of life. It's the natural progression that God placed in the beginning of creation, that when something starts off, it's young, and over time it grows older and older, more mature, more wise, more experienced, you know. And I feel like when we avoid adulting, the only thing we're doing is hurting ourselves and trying to stop a natural progression that is natural. You can't really stop it. And so you're really just trying to, you know, nobody wants to see a 35-year-old doing 18-year-old things, really. And
which, when you mentioned that, I was kind of thinking in my head, would you correlate that to maturity, like adulting to maturity, like
doing adulting things means you're mature, or you're maturing,
like
or something?
more mature,
right?
Which kind of, right? Because like if you wouldn't think that a 35, 40-year-old wouldn't have a rent, you wouldn't have bills, because then that means they're not really doing much. And if they're not doing much, it's because they haven't come to terms with their maturity hasn't come to terms with the adult life, almost. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, adulting doesn't necessarily mean that you, because again, at the end of the day, adulting is really just accepting those responsibilities, you know, and being accountable for what you're doing, you know. And so what we basically want to do this series is just encourage you guys who are in this season of, man, I'm getting older, I'm becoming an adult, I'm getting closer to 25, I'm getting closer to 30, or maybe even getting closer to, I don't know, maybe getting closer to 35. I mean, the reality is that you are an adult, and it's time to, as the word says, leave childish things and become more mature. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't know it all. And this series is not about us having all the answers to everything. It's really just about us sharing our experiences with you and encouraging and letting you know that you're not alone when it comes to coming to terms with being an adult. So today's questions is, am I making my parents proud? And is my significant other the one? So these are two like pretty big questions.
Yeah.
And so if we just take the first one, am I making my parents proud? I think the best way to kind of like address this question and talk about this issue is like, and we have a little bit, right? Because we're parents. So like, as far as what we know, what are our expectations for our kids? What is a parent's expectation for their child? What would you say?
For me, for my kids, I mean, just the basics. I want them to, one, graduate high school, and then not, again, for me and my children, I don't expect them to go to college and get a degree and I'll do all that stuff, because I know it's not for everybody. Me personally, if I had the choice to go back, I wouldn't have gone to college. I would have gone straight into what I'm doing now. I want them to do something that is gonna make them happy, like something that, something that's gonna make them happy. And with that, I don't mean like just go and do crazy things just because those are things that make them happy, but like be responsible. I want them to be like a good citizen. I want them to, like, those are like just kind of the basic expectations of that I have of the for our kids. I mean, be respectful, be friendly to everybody, but that's just like, scratching the surface of what I want.
Yeah, because that really is kind of a loaded question. Like, it's really like, what are my expectations for my kids? Like, man, we could do like a whole hour just talking about that. But I mean, for me, if I were to just keep it short, I think my expectations for our kids is, number one, I want them to serve God, and I want them to step into whatever calling God has called on their lives. And and then besides that, big thing for me is to be responsible, to go after the things that they want, and even if that's not a traditional, like, hey, high school, college. I mean, I want them to graduate high school, but like, even if it doesn't mean like going to school after high school, So, but yeah, my expectation for my kids is to obviously go after God, to honor me in their actions and in their life, and then, pursue the things that they want to do, whatever that may be, and if it's something that, I feel is healthy for them and a good thing. So, so the reason why, like, I wanted to bring up that, what are parents' expectations for their kids, because I feel like every parent has their own list and set expectations for their kids, and it really evolves around what those parents believe in. What is their faith? What is their morals? What do they value as humans, and that what they look at as important. So I mean, when we get into the question of like, am I making my parents proud? Because tons of people ask themselves this question. It also has to deal with relationships with their parents.
Right.
Not everybody has the same type of relationship, or even, what I mean? So for example, like, my parents are still married. They've been together. And so like, I know that when I go to my parents' house, they're both there, right? Your parents are not. So like, for you have to, go two different places to see your parents, and then you have your relationship different with them. So like, I mean,
and I would even go as far as to say that both of my parents have their each separate expectation for me and for my sibling. Like, if I could, if it were up to my dad's expectation for me would be, which he tried to do it well while I was in college. He tried to get me to study agriculture and study business so that I could help him with his business in Mexico. But it's like, I don't want to do that.
I might want to do that.
Yeah, right? And then with my mom, like, she was a little bit more laid back and a little bit more supportive of, like, whatever it is that you want to do, like, I'm here for you. Like, it, very different. And with your parents, like, they're on the same page with their expectation for you as well.
Well, I think, like, the reason why it's different is because obviously my parents are together still, right? So as they were raising me, like we do, right? We talk a lot about how do we want to raise our kids? What type of things do we want to teach them? And I'm sure they did that with me. there was a point, how old were you when your parents got divorced?
Well, they split up when I was like 8 or 9.
So they're already split up when you're 8 or 9, which, I mean, is only like a few years older than Abel. So if you think about it, like
just started like.
I mean, and how much of those first 8 years do you think they were really on the same page as far as how they wanted to raise you?
3.
You know what I mean? So like, I feel like it's kind of natural that your parents didn't necessarily, they weren't on the same page because they weren't together. So at that point, it came about it was about like, what do I want for her as my child? Question: did you ever feel any time that your parents had like contradicting expectations for you, or do you think at the end of the day, like, even though your dad wanted you to do one thing, your mom wanted to do another, at the end of the day, it was still heading towards the same direction, which, was, you going after the things you wanted and succeeding at those things?
No, I think at the end of the day, yeah, they both kind of like supported my goals and dreams.
Yeah.
Because my dad has been very supportive, financially as well, with like me going to college and stuff.
Right. Even now.
Even now.
Yeah.
And so, yes, he wanted me to like follow his footsteps, but at the end of the day, he's like, the thing that matters to me is that you're going to college, which is something that I never got the chance to do.
Right.
And like, go forward, and that was very helpful.
And that's why, I'm glad that I asked that question, and that was the answer, because it shows, like, again, parents, everyone has their own morals, their values, what they care about, what they want to teach their kids. But at the end of the day, I feel like a good parent wants their kid to succeed, whatever area that is.
And if I can butt in, they want you to be better than they were. Because for me, like, I want Abel to do all of the things that I couldn't do, and not that I'm gonna like push him like, do this, Abel, because I didn't get to do it, and so I'm gonna live through you. Not in that way, but naturally, like, I want you to be a better person than I am. I want you to do bigger and greater things than I could ever imagine for myself.
Definitely.
So yeah,
I think that's a huge thing. Like, parents want their kids to be better and have more opportunities and have more things, more of this, more of that. I mean, and sometimes that's not a great thing, but I mean, that's just the parents' heart, right? They want their kids to have more. So in dealing with asking the question, like, am I making my parents proud? Maybe you made a decision in life and it wasn't against it, or it was against what your parents had advised, or a parent had advised. And now you're in a situation where you're asking yourself, like, am I doing, again, like going back to the last week's questions, right? Am I on the right path? It's like, at the end of the day, like, your parent really wants you to succeed, even though sometimes they get frustrated and they don't agree with the decisions you make. It is your life. There comes an age where you are now an adult and you make those decisions, and the only one that really deals with those consequences of those decisions is you. And your parents are going to either be happy or sad, of course, if you're happy or sad, but you made that decision, so you deal with that consequence. And I think, like, when you ask yourself, am I making my parents proud? I feel like that's a good question to ask yourself from time to time. Like, I ask myself sometimes, like, and I know if I ask my dad, are you proud of me? Like, he's going to tell me, yeah. He's going to say, yeah, but it's not about, for me, this is the way I look at that question, right? Like, for me, it's like, okay, I know if I ask my dad if he's proud of me, he's going to say yes. But in this moment right now, where he's not around and he probably won't know whatever's going on, is he proud of me and of how I'm handling this moment, of how I'm handling this thing, this situation? It could be good or bad. So the way I think of that is, like, I want to make my dad proud, even in the things that he'll never, like, find out or know. You know what I mean? So, like, let's say Abel's acting up, or Abel's having, and we're always picking on Abel, but it's because he's the older one and he talks, and
Pobrecito.
But let's just say he's acting up, or there's just a difficult situation that I have to handle as a father, right? Like at the end of the day, like I want to make my dad proud. Like I taught my son really good how to be a father. Weird. How to handle that situation. You know what I mean? So like, I don't think we should ever look at this question as like a make or break. But I think the question always makes us look at ourselves and really think about what I mean. My parents at the end of the day really want me to succeed and be happy. So I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think like even with like, especially those like hard moments or those hard choices where you can decide on which path to go to, like if I do this, like are my parents gonna be, can my parents sit here and be like, I'm proud of what you
Right.
did, or I'm proud of how you handle that, like you were saying, you know? Or if you take the other path and do something that they may not be too happy about. And like you said, it's good that we ask those questions, because we do get to kind of like look in the mirror and kind of assess where we are in life, how we're doing, and how we can be better too.
Right. Because again, I mean, like who you are has a lot to do with your parents raising you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Giants fan. I love the Giants, but I mean, a lot of that is because like when I was home, that's the baseball team that we rooted for. You know what I mean? My dad was not an A's fan. He was a Giants fan, a diehard Giants fan. And so, I mean, and I grew up with that. You know what I mean? So like in a more deeper sense than just sports, I mean, there are other things that I believe in and have faith in and I agree with and things like that. Like my whole morals and values that is based on my mom and my dad and the way they raised me. And same with you. Even though your parents split up, they were still like, you know what I mean? Like they were still raising you and putting things in you and these morals, these values, things that matter to you, such as like family and taking care of family and being there for family. Like all of those things are things that your parents like they instill in you, you know, and then your personality too obviously has a part to play with that as well. But so like I wanted to read a scripture, Exodus chapter 20 verse 12, and this is from the section where it's talking about the 10 commandments. So this is one of those 10 commandments, and it says, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving to you. So many times we hear honor your mother and your father, and you know there is no like part of that where it says honor your mother and father because they deserve it or because they were good to you. Like so, I understand that not everybody's not everybody has great relationships with their parents, and it's a blessing to have great relationship with your parents, but it is also a blessing to have parents. And as much as kids are gifts to their parents, parents are gifts to their kids. And we're living in a day now where kids are born and they really never get to meet their biological mother and father, but people come along and become their mother and father and raise them. And so, and even in that case, I would say honor those people. You know, especially honor those people because they they take you in, and they love on you as their own. Like you're their own flesh and blood, and like you wouldn't be able to know the difference. You know, and like my brother and my sister-in-law are doing that. You know, they adopted a kid, and he's the cutest baby.
Yes.
He's so cute, and they're loving on him, and they're instilling morals and values and beliefs at such a young age, and you wouldn't know, other than obviously like looking, but you wouldn't know that James doesn't belong to them. You know what I mean? So, and these are things that us as kids have to understand, that we have to honor our mother and father, even though like that relationship is strained or difficult or whatever. It's important to honor. So instead of, ask yourself, am I making my parents proud? But even more so, am I honoring my parents? Am I honoring them in like how I make decisions, how I handle situations, even if they don't agree with the things you do in life? If you ask yourself, am I honoring my mother and father? Then I would say you're probably doing okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like those who tend not to honor their mother and father and neglect, and they have tough lives. They really do.
Yeah.
And, you know, the word is clear that, you know, your days may be long in the Lord. In other words, like, and people say, well, that means you have a longer life. And sure, you can take it like that. But for me, the way I look at it is like, there's more opportunity for you. You know, there is more blessing in that for you. There's more favor in that for you if you honor your mother and father. So that's what I think. Anything else you want to add to that?
Kind of.
Sure.
But I don't know if it has much to do. I did want to correct, because I know that there's going to be somebody who has a comment about that. When you said that James doesn't belong to them, he does belong to them.
Yeah.
He very well, like God placed him in their life. He just didn't come from them. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to correct that, because I know there's going to be that annoying person.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Yes, correction.
So the next question is where it gets hot and heavy. Is my significant other the one? The one. Do you like that?
What?
When, you know, so like, obviously,
when they say like, oh, is he the one?
Like everyone's looking for the one, right? Or one. It's just interesting. I don't know. It's kind of I know it's kind of like an overplayed, cheesy like term, but we all know what that means. So,
well, I mean, like, do I like that term?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, kind of. Like, I hope I only have the one. Like, I don't want to have, like, J-Lo, my first love, second love, third love.
Okay, we always make fun of J-Lo because she has this song, right? And I love J-Lo. God bless you, J-Lo. But she has this song. It's called First Love, right? It is called First Love.
Yeah.
And she sings, and she's literally like, she might as well throw the dudes' names in there, because she's like, I wish you were my first love.
Because then I wouldn't have a
first, second, third, or fourth love.
I'm like, dang, girl.
Yeah, talking about putting all your trash out there.
For real.
She might as well say, because then I wouldn't have gone through Diddy and Ben Affleck and you know, and like start going through all the names of the guys. But
that's so funny.
We always make fun of it because it's funny. I wish you were my first love, and I always like to play it because I wouldn't have a first, second, or third, or fourth, or fifth, or sixth, or seventh love.
That's so funny.
Anyway. But yeah, okay, so...
Getting back to our super serious conversation.
So, is my significant other the one? How did you know that I was the one?
Well, during that time of life, during that time in my life, I was just in a very crappy, like, situation.
Yeah.
And so, a little bit of backstory. Before I, like... thought about like saying yes to you or thinking that you were my husband, I always thought when I was dating, I'm gonna have a boyfriend and we're gonna be dating for at least 2 years before I get married, because I don't want to end up like my parents, and I want to be 100% sure that this thing is gonna work out. I had never been like in love before, and so when you and I were dating, we only dated for 6 months before we got engaged. But with you,
that's
like...
fast.
Yeah. With you,
really
like...
was.
I felt so safe with you, and I felt so, like... I know, I'm gonna cry.
Really?
I felt like...
I mean, how could you not?
Stop it. I just felt very, like, secure. I felt good about myself. Like, I felt like I could be... myself 100% with you. I enjoyed being with you. I loved your family, and till this day, like I feel very like safe and secure around your family too. Like they don't make me feel like, oh, she's here because she married my brother and not because we like her. You know, I always felt part of the family since day one, and I always felt so loved. And I feel that you and your family made me feel so loved, and I just felt so safe there. Like and then like I remember like the first time that I told you I loved you too. Like I was so scared to tell you and like tell you like this thing that was burdening me and that was super heavy on my heart. And then when I finally told you that, you were just like,
I know.
I know, and I love you too, and I love you because of that. You know, I thought that was gonna like make or break our relationship, and the fact that you responded in the way that you did, I was like, oh my god, he does like me, like not just like me, but like he loves me, and he accepts me 100%. He accepts me 100%.
She said sex, guys.
Shut up! I'm like nervous. You still make me feel like super like giddy and stuff. But yeah, you just make me stop.
Okay, I'm sorry. No more.
You accept me 100% for like who I am and all of my quirkiness and my awkwardness, and just like if this guy can love me for all of who I am, and like then I just felt like you were the one.
So like for me, I felt you were the one because I mean same thing like so like when I met Ruthie, she was very, I mean, and you got those of you who like know us and are around us, and maybe you don't know Ruthie all that well. She is very quiet and like shy and to herself at first. And a lot of that just has to do with her comfortability. Comfortability?
No.
A lot of that just has to do with how comfortable she is. And, you know, so when I first met her, she was like that. And, you know, she also was my sister's best friend growing up. Mm-hmm. And, so I gotta be honest here. So we had the young adult retreat.
Oh God, what happened?
And we had like a marriage class, right? So I was there. Ruthie didn't go, so I was by myself. And so they had everybody get up and like talk about their spouse and like how I met them. So I got up and talked about Ruthie, and I was like, you know, like, we met in church and all that. And I was like, you know, when I first met Ruthie, I thought she was butt ugly. So everyone's like looking at me like, what? And I was like, whoa, hang on.
Oh
when I
God.
met Ruthie, we were kids, guys. We were
That's
kids.
so
So like cooties and all that. Like, and she was my sister's friend. So I was like, what? You know, like.
Do you even remember me at that age?
Barely.
I don't. I honestly don't.
Whatever. She came to the house just to see me. So I barely remember you at that age. But anyway, so one of the things that like really made me feel like Ruthie was the one was that she was so like down to earth. I didn't feel like she was putting on a front to get me to like her. She was just like, I'm going to be like who I am. And if you like it, great. If not, no problem. And so, and I was really drawn to that because for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to like spend a whole lot of time and a lot of conversations to like get to know her. I felt, and honestly, we knew of each other, mm-hmm. but like, I felt like we connected on another level, like quick, because there was no like games, there was no front. And to be honest, like I was in a string of relationships before where it just felt like, you know, I was either, you know, I didn't really know the girl, or I was in a relationship a long time and just things weren't really going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so when you and I started dating, it was like, okay, I'm so over like trying to like, you know what I mean? Overthink and overwork this relationship just to not get anything out of it. Mm-hmm. And so it took me us a while to even like decide that this is what we want to do, was to be in a relationship. Yeah. And then when we did, it was like, it was still like, we're gonna really like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, because I remember we like, I don't know, how would you say, we dated for 3 months before we dated. Like we talked and stuff like for courting. 3 months.
It was like getting to know each other. Like we were like really friends. I mean, we were like friends. I think we both kind of felt like we like,
but we would still like
other.
Talk and hang out like a lot. And it came to the point where I was like, if this guy doesn't ask me out to be his girlfriend in like the next month, I'm wasting my time. And then you did.
Yeah. So I didn't waste her time.
No, you didn't.
So yeah, I mean, so is my significant other the one? Number one, if you're at this point and you're asking yourself the question, that means it's pretty serious.
Yeah.
That means, and if it's not like this, then you should really think about this, but that means the other person, whether, you know, your significant other, you know a lot about them, you've met their family, you even know, like, some of the things they've gone through, some of their dirt, some of the struggles they have, some of the, you know, difficult times they've had. Like, you know all this stuff, right? And then you start thinking about what a life looks like with them. Start thinking about, do they believe what I believe in? Do we support each other in this? Do we support each other in that? Are they pulling me one way and I want to go another? Like, these are all the things that you should be thinking about before you're even asking yourself, are they the one? You know what I mean? Like, many times we enter a relationship, we like how the other person makes us feel, which is a good thing. But then it becomes all about feelings,
emotions.
And there's no, like, time to, like, stand back and say, well, hang on a second. Like, it's a long distance relationship. Okay, so if you guys were to get married, who's moving where? And if you're moving, that means you gotta find another job and go somewhere you've never been before. And is that something you really want to do? You want to leave your family? You know what I mean? Like, these are all things that you have to think about.
Yeah, so many questions.
So, I mean, but I don't know. I mean, like, what are, like, using our example, what are some things that, you know, you feel, you know, people should be looking for in their one?
I think definitely a point that you hit right now is, like, your future. Do you see yourself having a future with this person? Do you see yourself, like, for me, I knew for sure that I wanted a kid. So, like, do you see this person being a father to your children? Do you see your children, because at the end of the day, your children are going to be in some way or another a version of you.
Yeah.
Do I want my children
going back to that first question, right? Yeah.
To be you, to be like you? And if the answer is no, then there's something wrong with that partner, right? And so is this someone who I can depend on? Is this somebody who, if I have, like, something difficult that I'm going through, or like you were saying, like your dirt, is this something that I want this person to know? And how is this person going to react? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to kind of, like, push me away? Is like, I don't want to deal with that, that's too much for me, like, try to deal with that on your own, type of thing. If the answer to those questions are no, or, like, I don't know, then there's some soul searching that needs to be done in here, and in the, like, conversation too needs to happen with the other person. Just all kinds of questions that need to be asked, like, going into marriage and how that will affect, you know.
And I think the soul searching, that should be a non-issue, like, because when you enter into marriage, you're becoming one. So whatever you got now becomes the other person's. You combine, right? You come together. So not only are you bringing the good things about each other together, you're bringing the bad things about each other together too. And so all the things that you struggle with as a person, like, that's another question. Like, is my significant other the one? Well, hang on a second, because sure, you're bringing good stuff in a relationship, but you're bringing bad stuff in too. And is that something you really want to share with the other person? You know what I mean? Like, things you struggle with, things you deal with. Is that something you really want to take? And if I were to be 100% honest, that was an area I was not thinking about. Was like, I know I have a lot to offer. I do. I'm sorry, but I do. And that's not because I think I'm great. I just think that, like, the Lord has been good with me. I have a good family that loves me and supports me and has taught me good things. So I felt like I'm going to bring good things to this relationship. And it was true. Everybody has something good to give, but everybody also has something bad to give. And so all the areas that I really was not very good at, like, I brought that into the marriage too. So, like, those are all things that we got to deal with. But you have to ask yourself, are those things that you are struggling with, those bad things are those things that, number one, you're aware of. Number two, you're dealing with. Number three, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so many things about that. But the soul searching, that should already be like, that should be a non-issue. Like, you should be anchored. You know, your soul should be anchored in God. Really, it should be. It has to be anchored in God. Your faith has to be strong, because if it's not, you're not ready for marriage. You trust me, you are not. You're not ready for marriage. So, but some of the other things, like, I think it's important that you talk to the people that know you, like your parents. If you have a great relationship with your pastor, your mentors, like, talk to them and say, hey, you know, I've been with so-and-so for such a long time, and I'm really starting to ask myself, maybe they could be the one. What do you guys think about this person? And tell them, be honest. What are some things you're not worried about? What are some things you are worried about? And because at the end of the day, like, when you get married, you're going to hear from people like, yeah, good job, you guys. We love you, support you, whatever you need, we're here. And then you're also going to hear from the people that are like, are you sure you really want to do that? You know what I mean? Like, she's, you know, they're really nice, but, you know, there's also this other side sometimes where it's just a little, so you're going to get it from both sides. Yeah. You're never going to avoid that. Not everybody's going to be happy about it. Some people are going to tell you, don't do it, you know, and that's normal. I think every couple that's entering a marriage gets that from both sides. So is my significant other the one? I mean, we can't really answer that question because we don't know who your significant other is. But if you take the time to really, you know, ask your parents, ask your mentors, you know, what they think about your significant other, I think that's a good starting point. Obviously, praying. I mean, what does God think about your significant other? I mean, not all relationships are brought together in church. Not all relationships is like, I remember the first time that I saw her, she was at youth conference at the altar crying. Like, not every relationship starts off like that. You know what I mean? Although the first time that I really was like Ruthie was when I saw her at the altar and she was singing. And I was like, oh. It was a holy moment for sure.
I see.
But I mean, not every relationship starts off like that. And even if it does, it doesn't mean that it's perfect. Or that's not going to have issues, because we've had issues and we're not perfect. And so, I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to do to answer that question. Ask yourself. You should be asking yourself, even if you just got in a relationship after a week, am I going to be serious about this person? Because if not, break it off. Break it off. Don't even waste your time. Just break it off. I know that we like to be in relationships and we like to have somebody, but if it's not going to go anywhere and you already get a sense of that, what's the point? Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah. Well, kind of backpack on that. Like, yeah, I think that definitely if you go into a relationship not that every relationship should be like, or where am I trying to go? Because I know this is going to get twisted. Like, in a way, every relationship that you go into should be like, do I see myself marrying this person? Because at the same time, if you don't, it's like you said, am I wasting my time? You know, like, right. And for me, I can say that there came a point in my life where I had gone out of a really bad relationship, and I thought, you know, like, this is dumb. I'm not gonna be wasting my time. Like, I'm only getting older, and I'm not gonna just be throwing myself out there for people who aren't gonna value me, who aren't gonna love me, who aren't good for me. And so I kind of told God, you know, God, I'm not gonna be out there dating just anybody anymore. Like, the next person that I date, I want them to be my husband, and not because I choose them, but because you have placed that person in my life. And I started praying for my husband without even knowing who he was. I didn't even know that I was gonna end up with you, because I've known you my whole life, and I thought you were like really cocky and annoying before, like,
but I am.
Before I like saw any interest in you like that, you know? Yeah. And so the last person that I thought I was gonna end up with, especially because, like, knowing who I was at that time, I was like, there's no way. Like, I was kind of scared. Like, there is no way I'm gonna end up marrying the the grandson of my pastor. Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
I was like putting my bar like a lot lower than that, you know, like, so it was very intimidating for me to be like, oh my God, now I have to be like a santita, you know, like knowing
You
all
do.
my stuff. Well, I know, but anyways, that's everything. And so, yeah, it's just, I've lost my train of thought now.
Sorry, I'm just trying to like be funny, but I'm just distracting you with my good looks.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I mean, definitely I would say pray for your husband.
Yeah.
And,
or
wife.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our thought. I mean, honestly, this is a thing that we could talk about.
Yeah.
And maybe we will, like, on a bonus episode coming.
Yeah, coming soon.
Coming soon, yeah, for Patreon.
And again, not to say that we like know all the answers,
No.
because we don't. We're just sharing what we know so far, what we have gone through, what we have learned, because we just want to pass this information along, and hopefully it's helpful to you. Hopefully it kind of starts stirring things up in your head, asking yourself questions, just getting a discussion going on, because you're only getting older, and this stuff is coming to your life anyways. So why not have people around you who you can go to and ask questions?
Yeah.
We may not have the answer to that, but together we can help you find the answer.
Yeah.
We can be here for you however you can, and yeah.
So I hope that this episode helped out. I feel like it did. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that we talked about that I think will at least help you start thinking about these things. So next week's episode, part 3 of our adulting series, we're going to conclude the adulting series, but the 3 questions that we're talking about is, will I ever stop experiencing FOMO?
Which means fear of missing out.
Yeah. Am I too old for this? It's a good question to ask yourself. And also, will I ever get out of debt? So we're going to talk about some financial stuff next week. And again, if you guys are enjoying this show, please share, comment, subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Another way you can support is going to patreon.com/ODYV. So just to give you guys an idea of what we're shooting for with that money, we're looking to get new microphones.
Hello, I need a stand. This is so annoying.
A stand here for Ruthie-san. We're also looking at getting a new board. A new soundboard. Yeah. So I mean, that's really what we're looking for right now. Even some lighting as well. So there's really a lot of things that we're trying to use that money for. So if you want to support, go to patreon.com/ODYV. There's a $1 tier, a $5 tier, and a $10 tier. Is there anything else? I don't think there's anything more. If you want to give more, you always can. And with that, you get exclusive content. We have exclusive video content also coming soon, as well as the return of the Fuegasodes, which is just like kind of like a family vlog. So you guys can kind of see, like,
Should we tell them about the video that we're planning to do for next week's episode, or mention it next week?
Why don't you go ahead and drop that real quick?
Okay. Well, since next week we are going to be touching about finances and debt and stuff, we recently have done our budget for this new year, for this new year. Cool. And so we thought it would be fun and a great idea to share how we do our budget. And I like to be very organized and have all kinds of tools and resources to help me with that, because I am a very visual learner, I guess. So I will be sharing what our family budget kind of looks like, how we do it, and
basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna shoot a video of it's our budget, but really the process that Ruthie has is like a really cool process. So we're gonna shoot a video and show you Ruthie's budget process, and that's going to be available for all of our Patreons, $1 all the way up to $10.
All you need is $1.
All you need is $1. So go to patreon.com/ODYV and you'll have exclusive access to that video next week. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm glad that you guys are also here. Please, again, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, give us some money if you want. but definitely pray for us because I need
Yes.
it. And she needs it.
Yes, I
right?
do. Yes.
Yeah, she needs it. So, until next week, I'm Benny Fuego.
I'm Riti-san.
When I do this, that means it's your turn.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm Benny Fuego.
I'm Riti-san.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. We did it.